Hey everyone, it's Alexander Robinson. Welcome to the channel, and this is my review for Lisa Frankenstein, which is the directorial debut of Zelda Williams. That's right, daughter of Robin Williams, but is also the latest movie written by Diablo Cody, who wrote Juno and Jennifer's Body. The movie takes place in 1989 and follows a high school girl named Lisa, played by Kathryn Newton. She is very much an introvert, but is also recovering from the horrific event of her mother's murder years before the events of this film. Her father is remarried, and while her stepsister Taffy does everything in her power to make Lisa happy and loved, her stepmother is anything but loving. Like, she is a wench when it comes to treating Lisa. One of her hobbies is to go to this abandoned graveyard and sit next to this tomb that is occupied by a boy that died at least 100 years ago. And she pretty much is there to give him comfort since she really has no friends outside of her stepsister. So one night, there's a lightning storm that strikes the tomb, which resurrects this boy, played by Sprouse, and it develops into a very bizarre friendship. Sort of like E.T., but with a zombie. That's as much as I can say. Despite the title of the movie, Lisa Frankenstein, the only real Frankenstein connection is that the creature is brought to life by a bolt of lightning. Obviously, I am late in reviewing this movie. The film came out last weekend, but as you can tell from my voice, I am recovering from a sore throat. It's not as bad as it was before, but I just didn't really find the energy or the time to go and watch this movie. So once I felt a little better, I went to seek out this movie because I was actually very intrigued by the trailers. It looked like a really fun throwback to 80s horror comedies. It was written by Diablo Cody, who of course wrote the excellent Juno, and her dialogue has always been very unique, I'll say. Sometimes it can be very hit or miss, but at least it's distinctive. And also, I was curious to see how Zelda Williams would do as a director. And for this movie, I think it's good, but there are a lot of things that I think were missed opportunities. First of all, I have to say right off the bat, I love the way this movie looks. It feels like something that came out of the 1980s, like right down to the dialogue, some of the sets and production design. Even if it can come across as very, very tacky, I just thought, well, that's the 80s. Of course it would look like that. It's also got a really great soundtrack to it. There are a lot of fun 80s songs scattered throughout this film. Of course, it has to remind you that it is the 80s, but it didn't really bother me. And I thought the main actors were actually a lot of fun. Kathryn Newton is kind of playing the same role that she played in Freaky, where she starts out as very introverted, but due to some unnatural circumstances, she suddenly becomes more extroverted. She's more out there. There's no body swapping involved, obviously, but it's still very much a supernatural thing that happens that causes this light switch in her head. Sprouse as the creature, that's how he's credited in Wikipedia, is really funny and manages to give a really comedic performance with literally no dialogue. Most of his acting comes from facial expressions and grunts. I mean, there are a lot of moments in this movie where I was reminded of Bub, the zombie from Day of the Dead, which they make a direct reference to in this movie. Liza Soberano as Lisa's stepsister, Taffy, is really good as well. She very much is that bubbly 80s teen who is a cheerleader. She's overly happy, she's popular, but I do like the contrast of how, despite the fact that Lisa is an introvert, Taffy tries the best she can to make her more happy. And you really buy into the fact that Taffy really does love Lisa, despite the different personalities and the fact that Taffy's own mother hates Lisa, which, if there's a bad element of this movie, if there's anything that I think is the absolute worst part of this film, I think it's Carla Gugino, because she is very flat in this film. To be honest, I never thought Carla Gugino was that good of an actress, and in this movie, she does an adequate job of making you hate this character just because of how much she hates Lisa, but I felt like Carla Gugino could have gone further. She could have gone a little more absurd and more spiteful towards Lisa, but she just comes across more like a blank piece of wood. I did end up hating her character, which I guess is a win for the filmmakers, but I didn't really find myself hating her enough. And another issue with the movie is that I don't think it really took advantage of the fact that this was an 80s horror comedy. There were a lot of key elements that it could have taken advantage of to just go full-on absurd, like embrace the 80s, embrace the horror side of it. They got the comedy down, and there were a lot of moments throughout that had me laughing, but there's one moment in this movie that is so absurd that it would have benefited from an R rating, not just in terms of violence, but also comedy. This movie is unfortunately PG-13, so that one moment, if you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about, isn't as outrageous as it probably should have been. I ultimately found myself liking this movie more than I was led to believe. I was looking forward to it despite the reviews, and I thought, okay, maybe I'll go in with lower expectations. And I walked out going, yeah, that was cute. That was a lot of fun, and a movie that I would certainly say is good. Is it great? No, it's not. Again, I think there are a lot of things that this movie dropped the ball on in terms of fully taking advantage of the genre and time period that it's set in. Not to mention there are a lot of really bizarre editing choices. Like there are scenes that just randomly stop, and it could have been tighter in terms of the editing. But overall, I think this is a movie that if you don't see it in theaters, you gotta see it on streaming, because I imagine at some point this might be a cult film in a way where people will go, hey, have you heard of Lisa Frankenstein? You gotta check it out. It's actually pretty cool. And then people will watch it at home and go, hey, that was actually fun. So that's how I imagine this movie's lifespan turning out in the future. And there you go, that's my review for Lisa Frankenstein. I hope you enjoyed it, and now I want to know what you guys think about the movie. Whatever your opinions are, let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell button to get notifications. If you want to find me elsewhere on YouTube, you can go check out my theme park channel, Alexander Robinson Travel Channel, and follow me on Facebook, Instagram, Letterboxd, Threads. I'll see you guys in the next video, but until then, have a good day, and take care of yourselves.